Attention all sentient species. Welcome to the Galactic Diplomatic Corps Orientation Seminar for new recruits. I am High Ambassador Xelnar of the Voluvian Confederacy, and today I'll be sharing the most important lesson I've learned in my 3 centuries of diplomatic service. The holographic projection of the 6-tentacled diplomat adjusted its formal sash as it gazed across the auditorium of wide-eyed recruits. The Voluvian's skin shimmered between shades of blue and green, a clear sign of amusement to those familiar with their species. You've all studied the standard protocols for the major galactic powers. The Thraxian requirement for silence during the ritual of intent. The mollusk collective's insistence on underwater signing ceremonies. The Zenturian obsession with precise mathematical timestamps. Xelnar's tentacles twirled in what passed for a chuckle among Voluvians. But today we discuss the species that has caused more diplomatic incidents, more interplanetary misunderstandings, and more hastily amended treaties than any other in recorded galactic history. I speak, of course, about humans. A low murmur spread through the audience. When humans appeared on the galactic stage a mere 80 years ago, most established powers dismissed them as inconsequential. Their homeworld was unremarkable, their technology derivative, their physiology unimpressive. Yet within a decade, they'd secured favorable trade agreements with 17 major powers, established military alliances with former enemies, and somehow convinced the isolationist Drew to share their quantum tunneling technology. Xelnar's skin darkened to a deep blue. Many believed humans possessed some form of mind control. The Krill Imperium even accused them of employing banned psionic weaponry. The Galactic Council launched 6 separate investigations. I was assigned to the final one, and what we discovered was both remarkably simple and utterly baffling. The holographic display shifted to show a human diplomatic team entering a meeting room. The secret to human diplomatic prowess had nothing to do with advanced technology or psychic abilities. It was, in fact, a peculiar organic compound native to their homeworld, a substance they call coffee. My first direct experience with humans came during the Proxima Treaty negotiations. Both the Avani Republic and the Shoal Dominion had claimed mining rights to the asteroid belt in the Proxima Centauri system, and after 3 local years of posturing, they'd finally agreed to allow the diplomatic corps to mediate. Xelnar's hologram expanded to show a formal conference room with representatives from various species seated around a massive table. The Avani arrived first, punctual as always. The Shoal were next, bringing their customary water habitats. The human delegation was scheduled to arrive at the 7th hour. We waited, and waited. One of Xelnar's tentacles twitched in remembered frustration. When they finally appeared 47 minutes late by Galactic Standard Time, they carried strange containers filled with a dark, steaming liquid. The smell was intense. Not unpleasant, but pervasive. It permeated the entire chamber within moments. The hologram showed 4 humans in formal attire, each clutching what appeared to be thermal containers as they mumbled apologies for their tardiness. The lead human negotiator, Ambassador Patel, immediately requested a brief moment to finish our coffee. The Avani representative, already irritated by the delay, demanded we proceed immediately. The human ambassador smiled in that way humans do that doesn't always indicate pleasure, and said something that would later become diplomatic legend, of course. Ambassador Goravak. But I should warn you that no treaty signed before I finish this cup has ever lasted more than a standard solar month. Xelnar's skin rippled with patterns of green and blue. The Avani, naturally, took this as a threat. The Shoal representative began emitting distress pheromones. In the confusion that followed, I attempted to salvage the situation by suggesting we begin with introductions while the humans completed their ritual. The hologram shifted to show a human taking a long sip from their container, eyes closed in apparent ecstasy. What happened next was remarkable. As the caffeine, the active compound in coffee, entered their bloodstreams, the humans transformed. Their speech patterns became more coherent, their reaction times improved, their proposals grew more nuanced. By the 3rd hour, they had deftly maneuvered both the Avani and the Shoal into accepting a compromise neither had considered possible. Xelnar's skin pulsed with deep blue. Unfortunately, this success was short-lived. 2 weeks later, we attempted to replicate the process with the Tellurian embargo negotiations. The diplomatic corps, eager to expedite matters, provided synthetic caffeine supplements to the human delegation upon arrival. The hologram showed a human staring in horror at a small pill. The lead human negotiator, Ambassador Chen, actually laughed. She explained that while the chemical might be the same, the ritual of coffee was equally important. When the diplomatic corps insisted on proceeding immediately, she reluctantly agreed. Xelnar's tentacles drooped dramatically. The resulting treaty contained 17 critical loopholes, referenced non-existent star systems, and somehow included a clause about the protected status of an Earth aquatic mammal called a narwhal. It was, in diplomatic terms, a complete disaster. Following the Tellurian embargo fiasco, the diplomatic corps launched a comprehensive study of human caffeine consumption patterns. The results were, to say the least, enlightening. The hologram expanded to display a series of charts, brain scans, and what appeared to be humans in various states of consciousness. Humans, you see, are one of the few species in the galaxy that deliberately induces a mild state of withdrawal and chemical dependency as part of their daily routine. Most adult humans consume coffee or similar caffeine-containing beverages within 1 hour of waking from their sleep cycle. Without this chemical stimulant, they experience decreased cognitive function, impaired mood regulation, and in some cases, physical discomfort. Xelnar gestured to a particularly distressing image of a human with disheveled hair and a haunted expression. This is Ambassador Rodriguez, widely considered one of Earth's most brilliant diplomatic minds, photographed before his morning coffee. And this, the image shifted to show the same human, now alert and smiling, is the same individual approximately 23 minutes later after consuming 2 cups of coffee. The hologram changed to display chemical structures and neural pathways. Human scientists have known about this dependency for centuries but made no attempt to eliminate it. Instead, they built elaborate social and cultural rituals around it. The morning coffee became not just a chemical necessity, but a psychological transition, a liminal space between sleep and productive consciousness. Xelnar's skin flashed with patterns of curiosity. Most fascinating was our discovery that humans are entirely aware of this dependency. They joke about it. They create art celebrating it. Some even take pride in the severity of their reliance on caffeine. The hologram displayed a human wearing a garment with the phrase, "Don't talk to me until I've had my coffee." When confronted about this seemingly irrational behavior, humans typically respond with confusion that other species don't have similar dependencies. As one human diplomat explained to me, "You mean you just wake up ready to negotiate complex interstellar treaties? That's not natural." Xelnar's tentacles waved dismissively. After analyzing 17 diplomatic incidents directly attributed to interrupted coffee rituals, the Galactic Council formally implemented what is now known as the Coffee Protocol. All diplomatic proceedings involving humans must allow for a minimum 30-minute coffee period before any substantive negotiations begin. Additionally, all facilities hosting human diplomats must provide the necessary equipment for coffee preparation according to Earth standards. The hologram displayed an elaborate machine with numerous buttons and dials. The diplomatic corps even created a specialized division, the Human Refreshment Logistics Team, tasked solely with ensuring proper coffee availability throughout the galaxy. But their budget exceeds that of some planetary defense systems. Xelnar's skin pulsed with amused resignation. Host species eventually accepted these accommodations as a reasonable cultural concession. But not all. 3 galactic standard years after the implementation of the Coffee Protocol came the incident that nearly sparked an interstellar war, the Zenturian Crisis. The hologram expanded to display a star system with an unstable sun pulsing ominously. The Zenturians, as many of you know, are a highly advanced species with an equally rigid adherence to temporal precision. Their entire culture revolves around mathematical exactitude. They calculate meeting times to the nanosecond and consider any deviation a profound moral failure. Xelnar's tentacles gestured toward the pulsing star. When their home system star began showing signs of premature collapse, the Zenturians needed immediate assistance. Humans, having recently pioneered stellar stabilization technology, were the only species capable of preventing catastrophe. The hologram shifted to show a diplomatic chamber where tall, geometric Zenturians stood opposite a team of disheveled humans who had clearly been transported directly from their sleep cycles. The emergency was so dire that human diplomats and scientists were teleported from Earth with no preparation time. They arrived without their coffee, without their equipment, and most critically, without having completed their morning caffeine ritual. Xelnar's skin darkened to a deep, concerned blue. The Zenturian High Chancellor immediately launched into the mathematical specifications of their stellar problem. The humans, still in what they call their pre-coffee hazes, struggled to follow the complex calculations. The hologram zoomed in on one human scientist rubbing her eyes while another stifled a yawn. When Ambassador Jackson requested a brief recess to get some coffee and clear our heads, the Zenturians interpreted this as deliberate stalling. In their culture, such a delay when lives were at stake was tantamount to attempted genocide. Xelnar's tentacles twisted anxiously. The Zenturian Chancellor activated their emergency protocols, which included readying their considerable armada for what they termed preventative action against human sabotage. Meanwhile, the human team grew increasingly irritable without their caffeine, misinterpreting the Zenturian military mobilization as aggression rather than desperation. The hologram showed both sides growing visibly agitated, the humans becoming more disheveled while the Zenturians' geometric forms grew rigid with alarm. Within 3 hours, 17 Zenturian warships had positioned themselves near Earth's solar system. The human military, responding to what they perceived as an imminent threat, activated their planetary defense grid. We stood on the precipice of a conflict that could have engulfed half the galaxy. Xelnar's skin flashed with urgent patterns. As the senior diplomatic corps representative present, I made what my superiors later called either the bravest or most foolish decision of my career. I violated 17 protocols, borrowed an emergency teleporter, and materialized directly in the negotiation chamber with a large container of what humans call espresso, an especially potent form of coffee. The hologram showed Xelnar bursting into the tense room, tentacles wrapped around a steaming machine. The effect was immediate and astonishing. The human diplomats, upon consuming the beverage, underwent their remarkable transformation from irritable, confused creatures into sharp, solution-oriented negotiators. Within minutes, they not only understood the Zenturian calculations, but identified 3 mathematical errors the crisis-stricken Zenturians had made in their panic. In the aftermath of what we now call the Grand Americano incident, a human coffee joke I still don't entirely understand, the diplomatic corps realized we needed a more comprehensive solution to the human caffeine problem. The hologram displayed a complex flowchart titled Human Caffeine Integration Protocol. I was appointed to lead a special task force dedicated to preventing future coffee-related diplomatic disasters. Our first revolutionary insight came from an unlikely source, a human barista named Miguel, who worked in the Corps cafeteria. Xelnar's skin brightened with enthusiasm. Miguel suggested what now seems obvious: if humans require coffee to function optimally in diplomatic settings, so why not ensure they are always pre-caffeinated before critical negotiations? The challenge, of course, was implementation. The hologram shifted to display a series of experimental chambers and testing facilities. We developed what came to be known as the pre-caffeinated diplomacy protocol. All human diplomatic quarters were equipped with automated coffee dispensers timed to their sleep cycles. Emergency teleportation chambers were modified to scan arriving humans for caffeine levels and dispense appropriate amounts before allowing them to proceed to negotiation rooms. Xelnar gestured to a particularly elaborate device. Our engineering team even created the Portable Emergency Caffeine Delivery System, or PECD, standard equipment for in all diplomatic corps vessels that might encounter humans in crisis situations. The hologram displayed what looked like a small, elegant machine that could be carried by a single diplomat. But our most innovative solution addressed the ritual aspect of coffee consumption. Human neurologists helped us understand that the psychological component, the coffee break, was nearly as important as the chemical one. The image changed to show a specialized diplomatic chamber with a distinct section cordoned off from the main negotiation table. We redesigned diplomatic spaces to include dedicated coffee transition zones where humans could engage in their ritualistic consumption while simultaneously absorbing preliminary pocket briefing materials through ambient neural interfaces. This allowed them to begin processing information during their coffee ritual without violating the psychological importance of the transition period. Xelnar's tentacles moved with evident pride. The first test of our new protocol came during the Rigelian boundary dispute, a conflict that had resisted resolution for over 7 decades. Using our coffee transition zone, the human diplomats were able to absorb the complex territorial claims during their coffee ritual, entering the formal negotiations fully caffeinated and remarkably well-informed. The hologram displayed smiling humans and tentacled Rigelians signing an elaborate treaty. The Rigelian treaty was ratified in record time, with terms so equitable that both parties initially suspected they had somehow been favored. The success was so complete that 17 other species with long-standing disputes immediately requested human mediation. Xelnar's skin shifted to a satisfied purple. Our most elegant innovation, however, was the introduction of the coffee break clause, now standard in all major diplomatic agreements. This provision allows any signatory to request a brief recess for refreshment without loss of diplomatic standing. While ostensibly created for humans, this simple addition has reduced negotiation tensions across all species by nearly 40%. The hologram showed diplomats of various species engaged in relaxed conversation during what was clearly a scheduled break. What began as an accommodation for a peculiar human weakness evolved into one of the most significant diplomatic innovations of the modern galactic era. Today, coffee and its associated rituals have become an integral part of interstellar diplomacy. The diplomatic corps maintains coffee plantations on 17 worlds, cultivating varieties adapted to different atmospheric conditions while preserving the essential chemical properties humans require. The hologram displayed lush agricultural domes on various planets, each containing recognizable coffee plants. Many species who initially found the concept of ritualistic chemical dependency baffling have come to appreciate the diplomatic advantages of scheduled refreshment periods. The Thraxians, who once viewed eating or drinking during negotiations as deeply offensive, now produce some of the most sophisticated coffee brewing equipment in the galaxy. Xelnar's skin shimmered with amusement. Some species have even developed their own versions of the coffee ritual. The Mollusk Collective created a remarkable algae-based beverage that produces effects in their neurochemistry similar to caffeine in humans. The Zenturians, in perhaps the most surprising cultural adaptation, incorporated precise coffee breaks into their daily temporal calculations, finding that periodic interruptions actually improved their mathematical accuracy. The hologram shifted to show various diplomatic successes over recent years. The Galactic Council recently released a century-long analysis of diplomatic outcomes, revealing that treaties negotiated under the Coffee Protocol have a 73% higher success rate and 39% fewer enforcement issues than those conducted under previous methods. Xelnar's tentacles spread in a gesture of conclusion. So, young diplomats, as you embark on your careers, remember this fundamental truth: the universe is vast, species are diverse, and no one, absolutely no one, should ever ask a human to sign a treaty before they've finished their coffee. The hologram began to fade, but Xelnar's voice continued with one final observation. Oh, and should any of you be assigned to the Arcturian sector, I should warn you about their methane-based stimulant ritual, unlike human coffee, which merely makes them irritable when interrupted. The Arcturian gas ceremony, if disturbed prematurely, causes them to. The hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving the newest recruits of the Galactic Diplomatic Corps with expressions of alarm and a newfound appreciation for the complexities of interspecies diplomacy. After all, humans weren't the only species with strange dependencies. Theirs was just the only one that had saved the galaxy.